studying for HUMA 2589 and looked at the course content, I realized that the professor wanted us to learn about Italian fascism, Stalinism, and National Socialism. He wanted us to be able to think comparatively about historical phenomena and more specifically about the nature of power in modern societies. You see, this course is called HUMA 2589, which probably perhaps some of you would also do. In this course, there are two textbooks which are prescribed. The first textbook is Stanley G. Payne's A History of Fascism 1914 to 45. This textbook is more about the fascist movement and the National Socialist movement in Germany and in Italy. And then there is another book called The Russian Revolution by Sheila Fitzpatrick. Both of these books are large with vast amounts of text, a large amount of data, as you can see. This book is 628 pages long, whereas the Russian Revolution book is also above 400 pages. So, in this book, while reading, sometimes I would want to go back to what I was reading. For instance, let's say I was reading about the Volkish culture and I wanted to know more about it. So, what would I do? Control plus F, and I type work, and that gave me Wokish culture again and again and again and again, and so on and so forth. So, as you can see, there are many instances in this text that the same word appears, the same context is used, or maybe a different context is used around that same word. So, in this case, I would like that all these references are put together at one point, at one place, so I can refer to them simultaneously. This means I can understand and compare the text better. So, what should I do? I should visualize data, and that's exactly what I did. So, in my UROP 1000 project, I decided to visualize data. Now, how did I do it? I used Wordle for tag clouds, and I used Word3 through IBM. Now let's see what these are. There are various visualization techniques such as pie charts, histograms, tree maps, graphs, matrices, networks, scatter plots, phrase nets, etc. But the way I wanted to visualize data was such that my data had text, large and unstructured, it was intensive and repetitive, and it was chronologically arranged. At least I wanted it to be in a chronological order. For these, two techniques matched quite suitably. The first was word tree and the second was a tag cloud. Now, what is a word tree, what is a tag cloud, and why do I need to use them? So let's see the purpose through my website first. Now, as you can see, the purpose was to make a study guide for HUMA 2589 course. Now, to make this study guide, I needed to analyze and organize my data. I needed to compare the eras of the three dictators, Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, and Mussolini, and understand their policies year-wise and country-wise. I also wanted to see the key terms in each chapter in order to remember what each chapter had and in order to revise for examinations. So to know what years to input and generate word tree and word cloud, I needed sources of data. Now, with these data sources, I decided to first create a word tree and then a word cloud. But first, I would tell you what a word cloud is. A word cloud, um, a word cloud arranges words from a passage in a random way with maximum use of typographical space and different fonts to represent their frequency and importance. Let's see how. So I open a word cloud based on the data I inputted about Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. Uh, this database gave me this kind of a Wordle. Wordle is a software which is used to make the tag cloud. In this, you can see the years 1918, 1917, 1945, and 1939 highlighted to show that these were the years where maximum historical events took place. So these have maximum significance. The same is in the case with October, February, July, November. So what you gather from here is that Wordle is the easiest way of producing aesthetically, visually sound static tag clouds in any language other than Chinese, Japanese, or Korean using the Unicode block. Now, now you would want to know how exactly did I determine what should be the size of each word. So what you can do for this is multiply the maximum font size that can appear in the text with the difference of the weight of that particular word and the minimum weight divided by the maximum weight minus the minimum weight. So this gives you the font size for that particular word. Now, now let's look at this word. As you can see, 1918 appears maximum in this word. 1918 here, this means has the maximum frequency of appearance. So how do I know where to place everything? How do I know how to minimize the amount of space used and maximize the efficiency? So for this for this I used Wordle. What Wordle does is that every word in Wordle is bound by a hierarchical box. This hierarchical box is divided recursively into smaller boxes, and the largest box is placed first. Largest word is placed first. So largest word in this is 1918, so it was placed first. Then comes the smaller word. Smaller word, say July. So July is spiraled away finally here. So as you can see, July and 1918 do not touch each other. They do not collide. They don't intersect even at a single point. How does Wordle ensure it? Wordle uses two techniques. One is caching. Caching ensures that bounding boxes of words don't overlap, and also spatial indexing. So indexing ensures that all words remain within a rectangular playing field using region quadtree. Now, what is region quadtree? Region quadtree divides the 2D field into four smaller rectangles recursively. Now, this is the rectangular playing field, and region quadtree divides this field recursively. And when it does that, a word is placed on the field, and the Wordle searches for the smallest quadtree node that entirely contains the word and adds the word to that node. This makes efficient use of space and prevents collision. So now you can see this Wordle can be useful to give us the keywords of the entire text because the font size of the word that appears the most is larger. So where are word clouds used? Word clouds or tag clouds are generally used to learn vocabulary, to make posters, to check for repetition in essays, as keywords in articles, or to get the gist of stories. I also used a storyboard to get the gist of stories. Now I'll show you how. Um, if you go on my site and if you go on Visualization, Storyboard, and for instance you open the Russian Revolution storyboard, a storyboard would appear giving the content of the entire book, uh, the Russian Revolution by Sheila Fitzpatrick. Let's see how. Yep, so this Russian Revolution by Sheila Fitzpatrick. In this I selected the text of each chapter of the book Russian Revolution, and then I pasted it into the data box, and I then asked Wordle to output a tag cloud. And this was the tag cloud created for the first chapter, then for the second chapter, and so on for all the 6 chapters. Now, what is the use of this word cloud? First word cloud, as I've indexed it 1, gives the introduction. So as you can see, the word political, revolution, Russia's autocracy, Russia again, economic, great, pre-revolutionary, economic, national, experienced, perceived, Nicholas, um, and so on and so forth. These words are highlighted. So what we can gain is that Russia's political climate was revolutionary. Millions of Peasants aided this revolution during the reign of Tsar Nicholas due to economic crisis. This led to the creation of the elected parliament. The regime was perceived as repressive and autocratic. All the words that are bold in this can be found in over here in this word cloud. So in this word cloud, then you move on to the next word cloud. The next word cloud has words Soviets, Bolsheviks, revolution, power, provisional, Western, democratic, etc. highlighted more. So using the main terms, I can understand that it talks about the 1917 revolution of February and October in Petrograd, where Bolsheviks seized power from bourgeoisie via coup. This led to dual power between Soviet and provisional government. And it also talks about Kornilov's putsch, democratic Western influence, assembly, coalitions, and Marxism. And all these terms are in large over here, as you can see: bourgeoisie, revolution, Soviet, etc. So on and so forth. You can finally create a whole storyboard with what you think it is, getting the gist of the entire book within one page. And that is really useful if you want to study, compare, or revise during examinations. Um, Now, as you saw, this can be really useful. Um, I would like to also discuss with you the things that can go wrong while using a word cloud and how you can overcome those disadvantages. So, a tag cloud may mislead a person who has no previous knowledge of the topic by emphasizing less important words and misconveying the gist. This happens if the writer of the passage has used keywords very less or is not very good and so prone to repetition. So, how do you avoid this? I used historic books by accomplished authors. Accomplished authors do not repeat what they have already written, at least there is no unnecessary repetition. Therefore, it conveys the right message. Secondly, in Wordle does not recognize word forms such as word, words, worded, um, as one word. So it for so as you can see in this word cloud which I generated for the entire text, word and words has separate repetition. What Wordle can do is have one unique representation for all verb forms of the same word, for instance, as it is word in this. Also, words like Russia, Hitler, and Italy are being used inordinately too many times. The reason for this is because the entire text is about them, but we do not want these words to overshadow the actual meaning. So I simply deleted Russia, Hitler, Italy, etc. and created the Wordle. So as you can see, years, months are highlighted, not the country or the ruler, which allows us to know when the events take place rather than where they take place. Now, you uh, you should also know that the color scheme in Wordle has no significance. However, in psychology, it is said colors like red and green grab more attention than colors like blue and yellow. So, Wordle should implement a meaningful color scheme. Also, Wordle can give a cloud shape. For instance, if instead of a rectangular playing field, it was, say, the map of Russia as playing field or the map of Germany as playing field, then then the Wordle would also have greater significance as it would tell you what exactly it's trying to convey. I suppose you have a general idea of Wordle. Now let's move on to a word tree. What exactly is a word tree? A word tree is a tool that is used to enable the user to search for relevant data. The data that is entered is pruned into a visual concordance. That is, it branches out from a search word. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you input, say, all the text that you have collected from all the online sources, from the textbooks, your own notes, and you input it, the output would be a word tree where where the word tree first appears as a blank slate like this. this is a blank slate. This is the search button where you can type a command. For instance, I want to search for the year 1919. So surrounding the word 1919, whatever text follows it, wherever uh, in the textbook or the source of data, will appear like this. What you must note here is that you can search for all data either before or after the word, this way, or you can choose the order, occurrence order, frequency order, alphabetical order. And if you say click on a particular branch, it would zoom. You click, it would zoom. This allows you to compare data chronologically and also country-wise and also according to the ruler. Thus, you can see that word tree is very important for comparing and analyzing data. The software I used for this was IBM Many Eyes, as it allows for easy manipulation and navigation of data. For instance, one can zoom into a particular branch, as you just saw, and see it from the back or the front, or go forward or backward through the search. For instance, if I type back, so I had zoomed previously, then I go back again. So you see. Um, Next is usage. Now, how would you use a word tree apart from the way I have used? You could make a word tree out of a political speech, like say Obama's political speech, and know the keywords and what context he used those keywords in. You could make a word tree out of newspaper research articles, or you could teach students. For instance, this is also a platform for teaching students what happened in the year 1918, then what happened in 1920, then what happened in 21. Let me take an example. For instance, let me take the year 1919. In 1919, in Russia, the events surrounding Lenin were first, in January, Mensheviks were legalized and they were allowed to publish Sega Bird in Moscow. Then, on 25th February, Cheka was closed down under the closed down Sega Bird, and white armies attacked Bolsheviks from all directions, but the Red Army was finally victorious. So we could see Lenin in Russia. Now, at the same time, in the same year 1919, Stalin in Russia became Commissar for State Control. He also became an important part of the Bolshevik Party in March, that becomes the Communist Party. In Germany, at the same time, Hitler in September was ordered to investigate the German Workers' Party, but he ended up joining it due to nationalistic and anti-Semitic doctrines. Again, in Italy, in the same year 1919, what did Mussolini do? Mussolini gained Trentino, South Tyrol, Trieste under peace treaties, and he formed combat groups called Fasci di Combattimento, or the fascist movement in Italy. And also fascists won 2% of the votes in general election. So see, you could study all this using a word tree. And a word tree helped you compare the reigns of all the four leaders in the three countries in the same year. Now, moving forth, a word tree does not come without disadvantages. If a user has no pre-knowledge of data, he will not know which search word would offer meaningful results in a word tree. So what did I do? I made a tag cloud using the data of the word tree, because tag cloud gives an idea of which words would yield necessary results. Okay, as you saw, the tag cloud I made highlighted the words word and data. So I used word and data as the search words in the word tree for the same data, and as you can see, I got a large amount of text. You need to note that text in this is pruned, or the software, which is IBM Many Eyes, it should treat ideally periods like full stop and line breaks /n as the end of a branch. However, it is not very efficient, and I think it can be made more efficient over time. Um, Lastly, I think if Wordle and Wordtree are used together, so that I click on a word on Wordle and let's assume that this is the Wordle. I click on the word 1918. As soon as I click a word trees, 1918 should open. So that would lead to a really nice word tree where you know which word you should click on 1918, 1917 to yield optimum results. So now you have a basic idea of what a word tree is and of what a word cloud is, and I hope you have understood. If you go through my project, you will also understand how I used a word tree and Wordle to create two storyboards on the two prescribed books of Huma 2589, and you will also understand how I created a word tree using data from not only the notes of the prescribed textbooks but also online sources. Now you I hope uh, now you see these. If you click on bibliography, you'll know the sources I used. These are the references for research. These references are for the research I put into making the project, and these uh, data sources are the sources I use to make the input data, that is data that would be visualized later on. You can go through them later. Now that you understand better, um, you can go through my entire website and click on whichever visualization you would prefer, either a timeline or a storyboard. If you click on the link my project report, then you would open a project report called Years of War-riors, um, and this happens to be the project report of UROP 1000 under supervisor Professor Chu Huamin. My name is Akanksha Gupta, and I am currently in the first year of Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and I hoped you liked my presentation. Thank you.